potion. Give me either the either or the either. I told you we're out of Phoenix down. Okay, alright!
Hi, you're listening to Magecast, the ensemble podcast by the well-read mage and a cast of mages. Each episode, I sit down with my rotating panel of guests to have some civil discourse about a single game. We're a group of games writers dedicated to long-form content and critique. You can find us on WordPress at thewellreadmage.com, on Twitter at thewellreadmage, and on YouTube. Crowdfunding support makes projects like Magecast possible. If you enjoy our work, written or otherwise, you can check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/thewellreadmage for more information on exclusives, rewards, and our vision for a future of better games writing and a friendlier gaming community. Links are in the description. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share Magecast with your fellow adventurers. Leave us a review, too. Oh, and now let's start the show. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment. Today I've got, well, a longtime friend and founder of the Well-Read Mage, co-founder, if you would.
We found it under a rock.
Yeah, and we pulled it out, dusted it off, and it was
Gorgeous.
still a rock. Yeah, but he's in town for the holiday week, right?
Yeah.
And it is Black Humor Mage, ladies and gentlemen.
Give it up.
Who has, might I add, one of the finest pun names based on a color out of all of the mage names.
Oh, definitely. I love my
You
name.
remember when we were originally coming up with the well-read mage as like a concept? How did wait, like, what did I just one day like tell you and Cameron, like, hey, you guys want a blog?
It was something like that.
Do you remember? Because I don't.
I kind of remember like you talking about it. Just like, dude, we should like start like a blog. You said it more like that. Like it was a secret.
Like how I usually do it?
Yeah.
Because we should get tattoos then.
And now here we are to this day with
Here we are to this
with
day.
Poogles.
Don't tell people what's on my tattoos. And now I have tattoos.
Wait. What's the final?
Just kidding. Huh?
No, I said Poogles. What's the?
Oh, Poogles?
What's the final?
Moogles.
Oh, Moogles. I was gonna say Moogles, but then I thought that was the Harry Potter.
I thought you said poodles. Anyways, so yeah, I came to you one day and I was like, hey, you want to start a blog? Because that would be really cool. And I remember I was messing around with a couple other blogs at the time. And
oh yeah, what was the other one? Griffiths and Quimps. Don't look that up.
And Quimps. Well, it's gone now.
Oh, is it?
It's just wasting space on the internet. So I took it down.
It's like infinite, and yeah.
Maybe. So then, you acquiesced, and it was originally going to be called Red Mage Reviews, which
That's lazy.
is a really crappy name. Yeah. So Blythe, my wife, was the one who came up. My waifu.
My wife.
My waifu came up with the Well-Read Mage title.
Oh, Blythe came up with that?
Blythe came up with that.
Dude, she has like the best ideas.
I was like, that pun is so awesome. Yeah, I will definitely use that in loving memory of my wife who's still alive. So then you came on board and Cameron came on board and you wanted to be right away the Black Mage.
Oh, yeah, I love the Black Mage.
Yeah, the design on that mage is so magey.
I know, right?
Yeah.
The
Plus,
hat.
yeah.
The eyes.
The eyes and Vivi from Final Fantasy 9,
Oh, yeah.
which you haven't played yet.
I have it, but I haven't played it.
Okay, you should. That's good.
I kind of want to do it in order, like 7, 8, 9 kind of thing.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I guess.
I
I played 7. I mean, you should go check out that review, by the way.
Yes.
Wellreadmage.com.
We did a dual cast. Black Humor Mage and myself did a dual cast review. Both of us reviewing Final Fantasy 7. That was a lot of fun. And Final Fantasy 8 is getting a lot of love now too. So from like gamers and people who don't identify as gamers, people who identify as individuals who occasionally play video games now and then.
That's me.
Yeah. So yeah, it's getting more popular, I think, over time, which is good.
I guess. Did you and Cameron do a review on that or something?
No, we never did.
No,
I really
that's-
would like to review 8, but I'd need to replay it. Yeah, for sure.
Did Cameron reviewed it by himself or anything?
No, he didn't.
Oh.
Yeah, I think he wanted to, but he didn't.
Yeah.
So-
That's a beast to tackle, dude.
Yeah.
Like, Final Fantasy 7, it took the two of us to carry that load.
That's true. So here we are, all these years later. two and some change years later. In February, it'll be 3 years. And now we're on this podcast together. So Just by way of a little more casual introductions. What are you playing right now, sir?
Nothing. I have like 5 classes and a job. So.
What was the last game you played?
Well, actually, no. I still have my 3DS, so I'm playing like Metroid, Samus Returns. I think it's like a remake of Metroid 2.
Yeah. How do you like that?
That's a good 3DS game. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And still getting through what I have. I think I like dropped Dark Souls Remastered back in August, and like I haven't played it since. So it's like,
what'd you buy that on?
PS4.
Oh, nice.
But definitely gonna buy a Switch this week though. So.
Oh, this week?
Yeah, Black Friday deal.
If you get Pokemon Let's Go, let's trade, because that's what I'm playing right now.
You're playing that?
Yeah, Pokemon Let's Go.
Are you a child?
It's a remake of, like, you're the one who's playing a 3DS.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I'm playing like a man's game, like
Oh,
Metroid.
Super Metroid?
Yeah.
I mean, Samus Returns, not Super Metroid. Anyways, I digress. But yeah, I am playing Pokemon Let's Go with my 3-year-old son.
Oh, that's
who
amazing.
Enjoys it a lot. It has a co-op mode.
Oh,
It's a remake of Red and Blue, or Red and Green, if you're gonna be one of those people.
that's amazing.
So yeah, it's a good game. I'm also playing Super Mario Party. I am playing Octopath Traveler. I am playing Metal Max Xeno, and I think that's it. But I'm playing a lot of games right now. Too much. Too many games. So I'm looking forward to, if I do get some time off this holiday season, I do hope that I can get a little more time to finish some of these. It'll be nice to have them off my backlog.
Smash.
Oh yeah, and then Smash comes out.
That's what we're gonna be doing.
Yeah, which I have pre-ordered.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I should pre-order that.
You should. I went down to a GameStop to pick up that Super Nintendo Classic for my nieces and nephews. Hopefully they don't listen to this before Christmas.
I doubt they're listening.
Yeah, they're like 10 and down, so I don't think they will.
Like listening to podcasts. Like,
they're like
listening to like
I know what Uncle Moses is getting me for Christmas. Anyways,
that's how they talk.
no.
Oh, okay.
That is a caricature. I would never talk about my widow nieces and nephews like that.
Don't say it like that.
Widow? What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So when I bought it at GameStop, the Classic Edition, the guy was like, the typical upsell. He was like, so you want to pre-order anything? I was like, dude, the only thing I want between now and the end of the year is Smash. He's like, well, you better pre-order it because this... So he was like, this location alone has over 400 pre-orders.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, and that was one of 5 GameStops that we have in our local area.
Wow.
So he said this is probably going to be Nintendo's biggest game in a while. He said bigger than Breath of the Wild in terms of sales.
Well, of course. It's
Breath
much
of the
more
Wild-
accessible.
Right. Well, I mean, Breath of the Wild was a launch title that had like over 100%.
Yeah.
What is it? Sales compared to the actual console that it was on.
Let's go for 200, guys. We can do it. Go out there, buy 2 copies of
Everybody
Smash.
buy 2 copies.
It can't hurt you or your wallet.
Yeah. But certainly Smash is going to sell like insane.
Like hotcakes.
Yeah. Like proverbial hotcakes. But all of those titles are great in their own special way. But today we're going to talk about something a little more metal than that. Something a little... Okay, so it's Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I thought we were talking about Bonk's Revenge.
Bonk's Revenge?
Yeah.
That's a great game.
That's not a great game.
Metal Gear Solid from 1998 on the PS1, known in some circles as the PSX. I prefer saying the PS1.
That circle called Europe.
So this is a beloved classic. It's going to be on the PlayStation Classic. Did you see that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, should we get this out of the way?
Get it out of the way. Whatever you got to do. Burp, fart, whatever.
If you want a PlayStation Classic, just go on the PSN store on your PS3. Like, there's nothing better than that.
Is that your professional opinion? Is that people should just get the games on PSN?
Yeah. They have like all those games on PSN already.
Not Mr. Driller. Nah, I don't know if it's on there or not.
Is that even a real game?
Have you seen the lineup for it?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Okay, so I agree with you. Now, I want to be very delicate here because I have a lot of constituents, peers,
Too many
friends whom I respect who disagree with me on this point. I do think that it's a very terrible lineup, considering the wealth of games that this console had. Now, all kinds of realistic, boring things could have gotten in the way, like licensing.
But they got Ridge Racer, right?
They got, okay, we'll just read through it and make a noise that's either approval or disapproval for each of these games, okay? If you can.
Okay.
Battle Arena Toshinden. No, I like that game, actually. I remember playing it.
But you're asking me, so keep
Okay, yeah. Cool Borders 2. Yeah, that's like playing the mini game at the Gold Saucer. Just that. Destruction Derby. Final Fantasy 7. Probably the best game on this collection.
Ever.
Yeah. No. Grand Theft Auto, the first one.
Done.
Yeah. Intelligent Cube.
No.
Have you ever heard of that?
That sounds awful.
I've played a demo of it, but way, way, way long ago. I think it was a demo.
Is it just like a Rubik's Cube that you gotta solve?
No, it's
like an app.
Okay, yes, it is. No, it's a cube puzzle game. Jumping Flash, which that was a launch title, I believe, for the PS1.
No.
There's this little game called Metal Gear Solid on there.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, that and Final Fantasy 7 are like the two reasons to get this if you can't get a hold of those
I have
games.
those already.
Final Fantasy 7 is coming to Switch. So
oh yeah, a bunch of dude.
Yeah.
I want to get Zodiac Age for the Switch because that's a perfect game to like. Take
oh
on the
man,
go.
heck yes. Okay, Mr. Driller.
No.
Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey.
Somewhat.
That's a great game actually.
I like that one.
Rayman.
Oh dude, yeah.
Yeah. Resident Evil Director's Cut.
Yeah.
See, I've got that on PSN.
Yeah, they have a lot of these on PSN.
Revelations Persona.
No.
R4 Ridge Racer Type 4. That's an awkward title.
Yes.
Okay, speaking of awkward titles, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo.
That sounds like...
That's like that Bust-A-Move style Tetris-y thing with the Street Fighter characters.
Bubble Bobble?
Yeah, which I've got that on PSN too. Siphon Filter.
I don't even know what that is.
Tekken 3.
Yeah, that's a good one.
3D fighters. That's just my opinion. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six.
I don't really know anything about that one.
Twisted Metal.
Oh yeah, that's a
Twisted
good
Metal's
one.
pretty
Oh yeah,
fun,
that's a
And Wild Arms would actually be the game that I'm most excited for on the PlayStation Classic.
But can you get that one on PSN though?
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm guessing most of these now. Talking to people online though, in Europe you can't get the same games on PSN, so that is a consideration to take. I think.
But we're not in Europe, right?
We're in good old.
US.
This is God's country.
No healthcare.
Hey, so in Europe though, I think that what we'll see once this thing rolls out is we'll see more numbers there than in America.
Yeah, Europe loves PlayStation.
They do.
One of my roommates is from Europe.
I mean, America loves PlayStation also,
Nah.
but there's not a lot of PlayStation on this. It's $100 for those games. 20 games, is it? Yeah, it's not a whole lot, and a lot of them, Mr. Driller, Super Puzzle Fighter 2, Ridge Racer Type 4, Cool Borders 2, Destruction Derby. Almost feels like it. Again, the PS1 had tons of games.
So many, man.
Yeah, many more times games than there were on any console in the 16-bit era. But yeah, it feels like just strange. No Tomb Raider, no Crash, no Spyro.
Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, no Crash. Now, the argument is a lot of those have been seeing multiple remakes recently. Remakes, remasters, so on and so forth. There was just the Crash Insane trilogy recently.
Yeah, that's true.
But
that's why I'm disappointed though. And I think you can get those games on PSN, like I'm saying anyway. So
right.
But I mean, for those of you in Europe, yeah, sorry, but I hope this helps a little bit. And plus, none of those controllers have the analog sticks either.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
Playing Metal Gear Solid without that,
it's awful.
Sounds like not a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, what would be your recommendation then in regards to the Sony PlayStation Classic?
Go to PSN.
go to PSN. Yeah, and just cut and paste. What am I trying to say? Just pick out the games that you want.
If you have a PS3 still, like, I mean, it's good for like some PlayStation
Right, and some
games.
people don't. Now that's a valid point too.
A lot of people don't do
Right,
that.
like I was talking to a few people, and they were like, "Well, not all those games are on the PS4 PSN. I mean, some of them are still only on PS3."
Oh, I see.
And then it's like, well, sorry, I guess hang on to your old stuff maybe, and then you don't have to shell out $100 for 20 games. half of them you're probably not going to enjoy.
Yeah, if you don't have a PS3, guys, get into some classics. Just PS3 is not a bad go.
Here's an
you know
idea.
what? The PS3 can actually play PlayStation like disc too.
Right. So here's an idea then. Instead of buying the PlayStation Classic, buy an old PS3. Buy a refurbished PS3. You might be able to get one for the same price.
Yeah, definitely.
And then if so, you're going to get wireless controllers with
analog sticks.
You're going to get access to
PS3 games, PS2 games, PS1 games,
and much more selection on PSN.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I think you could probably get all these on there. I don't know. Again, Europe, America. It's not like I jumped on the internet and I was like, oh, I got to see if you can get all these on there. But I know you can get Super Puzzle Fighter 2 on there. But anyway, there's one specific game on there that we do want to talk about, and that is Metal Gear Solid. So Metal Gear Solid, I played it back in the day. I don't remember if it was in 98 or not. I know it was before 2000. When was the first time you played Metal Gear Solid, and how old were you?
I was 17, so what year was that?
How old are you now? 45?
Yeah, no, I'm 23 right now. 17, so that's 5 years ago. So 2013.
Wow. One thing that I appreciated when we did the Final Fantasy VII dual cast review is that our perspectives are different. You and I are separated by an entire decade in terms of our ages. My perspective could easily be dismissed in terms of, well, you're just nostalgic for that time period.
Mm-hmm.
But yours can't. Because you didn't grow up necessarily with these. You certainly didn't grow up with the NES.
No,
right?
definitely not.
Do you have a Super Nintendo when you were growing up?
No, I didn't even have that.
Okay, so your first console was what? A PlayStation
PS1
1?
and 64.
Okay. So
But I wasn't playing Metal Gear Solid at like 2 years old.
Of course not. Yeah. It's a little adult, and we'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
So your perspective then is able to say that these games still remain playable and enjoyable, if not impactful, despite their age.
I think I mean, obviously, like, gameplay has like evolved to like a point where it's like very, well, relatively speaking, fine-tuned to nowadays and much better than that. But I think, I mean, for a person like me who likes to play like classic games and like can get over like the hurdles of like a lot of like really bad controls,
especially for the 3D era, the early 3D stuff.
Especially for that. I think it's just like trying to look at it as like a piece of like history almost, and like to play it and to be able to, to be able to play it and like understand that, this is what was advanced at the time, and to be able to still appreciate it for like, especially like its story and like, the little, even the gameplay itself. I mean, like, you can still, like, a lot of old games are like still fun to play. Metal Gear Solid still somewhat fun to play too. But I think definitely like the story is like what impacted me the most, and like the characters for sure.
So if you think of it this way, then that a game like this, it's a vehicle for telling a story.
Exactly.
The gameplay, the structure, the graphics, even the sound design, that's all there as sort of the frame of a car, and inside of that car is the story that's being delivered to your door. So what you're saying then is that the vehicle is still capable enough. It has enough functionality. It hasn't been put so far behind that it ruined the story for you.
Correct.
Yeah. So I haven't played this game probably since before the first time you played it. It's been a long time. Now I have it. And it's one of those games that I'd always like to go back and play. But it's been quite a while. So I will be, throughout the course of this podcast, be relying upon you as the expert in the room of Metal Gear Solid.
You have a BA in the
You have a BA
Kojima studies.
in Kojimology. So there's a couple things that I wanted to ask you that just don't entirely make sense to my mind. And maybe there are things that you can hash out and you can phrase out and make much more transparent. But one of them that I wanted to start with is what is the place of Metal Gear Solid in the context of the series? Just, I know we want to focus on this specific Metal Gear Solid 1 for the PS1 tactical espionage action, right? But to briefly address the series, how many games in the series have you played? Have you played all of them?
Pretty much. I never really finished Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2. I've played them.
Snake's Revenge, right? Is the second one?
No, just Metal Gear 2. No,
Okay.
Snake's Revenge is non-canon.
Right.
So it's just Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2. I haven't played those all the way, but I've played them. But the rest of them, yeah, I've played.
So the Metal Gear series, you've got Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake. You've played both of those?
Yeah.
Okay, the one that we're talking about today in 98. There was Ghost Babel.
Oh, yeah, for the Game Boy, I actually did play that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. And for the Game Boy, released in 2000, was it Game Boy Advance?
It was a Game Boy Color. I used to
Game Boy Color.
play on that, yeah.
I don't remember what Advance came out or anything like that. Sons of Liberty, I know you've played.
Of course.
Twin Snakes. That was one that I was working through recently.
So, before we get anywhere, actually the first game I ever played was the Twin Snakes.
Oh, really?
It was, the first Metal Gear Solid was the Twin Snakes I played. Because I had the Wii, so that plays GameCube games, and my uncle had Twin Snakes, and so I was like, "Hey, why don't you play this?" I was like, "Okay." And
Right.
it's just like,
So you were 17, right?
yeah,
And your uncle was like, well, I guess that's not. It was rated T, right?
M.
It was rated.
Yeah.
Oh, so they bumped it up. Because it wasn't the original rated T?
No, the original one's at M also.
Really?
Yeah.
I always thought it was rated T. Now I have to kind of keep talking.
Yeah, so the Twin Snakes was like the first one I played. Yeah, and that was where my love began for the franchise. I think I played Twin Snakes and then like 2, and then like I went back to the first one on the PS1 because I'm like, I should play this. Like it's a piece of history, classic that everyone I think has to play. If you're gonna, have the level of dedication that I do, at least to playing classics. But so yeah, Twin Snakes. But so I've played, the PS1 version, but the Twin Snakes was like the first one I ever
Your
played.
introduction. Okay, so and Metal Gear Solid 1, I stand corrected, was rated M for mature. I probably played that at 13, 14.
I mean, who didn't play rated? Dude, I was playing Grand Theft Auto like San Andreas.
Like you're one of
at
those
that
kids.
age, yeah.
They're like, man, you be okay. So then you got Snake Eater, Metal Gear Acid 1 and 2.
No, those aren't even canon. I think so.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
play those.
I haven't even heard of those. You got Portable Ops and Portable Ops Plus.
No.
You've never played those?
No, yeah, because those aren't canon either.
Oh, so you've only played the canon ones.
Yeah.
Okay, Metal Gear Solid Mobile.
No, I
Is
didn't
that
have a
a
cell
phone
phone.
installment? Yeah. It's like you just go around
It's like
catching Pokemon.
Play it on the T-Mobile Sidekick or something.
I don't know. So its story takes place between Metal Gear Solid and Sons of Liberty.
Oh, really?
So it is. Yeah.
Interesting.
Now you've got to play it.
Philanthropy.
Guns of the Patriots.
Oh,
So
of
you
course.
played that. I know because you won't shut up about it.
What?
Peace Walker. I know you've played.
Yeah.
Have you played Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance?
I actually have played that one.
Has one of the silliest titles I've
Worst
ever
titles.
heard in my life.
I played that one, yeah.
Revengeance. It's so great. And then you've got Ground Zeroes. I know you've played that, and Phantom Pain.
Yeah, it was the same game. Yeah.
Okay. And then there's Metal Gear Survive. Have you played that?
I will not even speak about that, to be honest.
Oh.
That's sacrilege.
So you're not gonna form an opinion through experience first?
Nope.
Dang. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I hope you have a great day. That's the end of the podcast.
All I needed to hear was zombies.
Zombies,
And
and
Metal Gear
that's it.
Solid.
Well, I mean, you had zombies in Sons of Liberty. Vamp technically was the undead.
Shut your dirty mouth.
Okay. All right. So coming back here. So in all of these games, what's something that makes Metal Gear Solid really special as an entry in this series?
Compared to the rest of the games,
Yeah.
I think that its story is probably more streamlined than the rest of the games.
So when you say that, what immediately popped in my head was on Snake Eater when you're fighting the pain, and he's like, "I am," with all the weird kung fu that he's doing, the pain, and then he does like a roundhouse kick and all this stuff, and it's just
silly.
Yeah, it's silly. I think that over time, this series got pretty silly. Given that Snake Eater is the furthest I've played into it, I've only played the first Metal Gear, the one on the NES, right? And then I've played Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 3. I've never played the fourth one. I own it. I'd love to play it. Just haven't gotten to it.
It's a beast of a game, man.
It's
gonna take away some of your life.
It's like every game.
Technically speaking, yeah.
Hey, I'm playing Pokemon Go, dude. Like, yeah, when I leave the house at like 1 a.m, where it's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "There's a black Charizard outside." And it's like, you hear my car like pull through the garage door and drive off. And I never came back. So, but now I remarried. So yeah,
That's fine. What's your new wife's name?
Charizard.
That's hilarious.
Not scripted, ladies and gentlemen.
That's hilarious.
Okay, so anyways, coming back to this, I think the narrative focus of this game isn't very muddied. It's kind of like, you need to do this. It's fairly straightforward. It's very linear. It kind of sticks to its guns, and the plot twists seem appropriate.
Sure.
They don't seem like Liquid Snake's hand is now grafted onto Revolver Ocelot.
Which I think they retconned it like very well.
Right, and I hear that every time, but again, I've only played up until the third game, so I still have no resolution for that personally.
Gotta play that game.
Watch Sons of Liberty.
You gotta sit through 9 hours of cutscenes to get.
Oh, dude,
the
I've
answer to
heard,
that.
I've heard so much, and I get real impatient now that I'm older. I'm just like, man, I'm that much closer to my grave. I cannot sit through these gratuitous cutscenes. This is something I complained about on a previous podcast, and it makes me sound real old, but I'm gonna say it anyways. That like cinematic storytelling in gaming can be real good. Sure. Like in Metal Gear Solid, I think it's spot on. It's real good. Has that sense of drama and scope that cinema has that makes it feel like more than just a game. But I think when games overdo cinematic storytelling, it's real just a grind. So I don't know. There's few games where I've started to feel that, and so I'm kind of apprehensive about playing Metal Gear Solid 4 just in case it's like literally like sitting through a movie and then the game starts again, and that was just like a segment of cutscenes.
Dude, it's like a cutscene. This is just like an hour and a half, and then you start playing the game again.
Man, what if you gotta? Can you pause it?
Yeah, sure. You can
Okay,
pause it.
thank goodness. I was like, what if I gotta use a restroom? Like I said, I'm getting old. Okay.
Yeah. Kidney stones.
So another thing to bring up is this game puts a lot of emphasis on stealth, right? Stealth is very much an important facet of the gameplay, in that it's not always wise to sort of charge into a room guns a-blazing. Snake is an action hero, but not of the sort of like an Arnold Schwarzenegger or a Stallone, where he can just mow down all these enemies. He's got to sort of be a little cleverer, a little wiser. So we were talking earlier about how stealth as a concept in gaming has changed over time. This game very heavily features stealth. And now it seems like you don't see too many dedicated stealth games.
Sure.
Right?
Stealth is just kind of thrown into games nowadays, really.
Yeah. Almost like shoehorned into the game.
Right.
Right. So you'll be playing like whatever. And it'll be like, well, now here's a stealth segment. And you're like, well, I don't really want to do this. You know, it's kind of like hitting a water stage in a previous era, where it's like, well, now the dynamics and the gameplay is all different, and this kind of just slows everything down. I was reading a review by the mail order Ninja Mage on Mark of the Ninja Remastered, which is a fairly dedicated stealth game. He was making the point. I haven't played it myself, but he was saying that this has really sort of happened where stealth as a genre, as a main heading for a game, has sort of disappeared from the field, and now you sort of see it just popping up every now and then, I guess. But
like games will have stealth mechanics. Like, I mean, I'm sure Horizon Zero Dawn, Arkham
Right.
games,
Right.
Last of Us.
yeah, now Arkham feels like a dedicated stealth game, and that's something that
Okay, I gotta
fits
give
the
it credit.
character.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Now Horizon. So that's. I'm glad you named two specific examples to play off of. Horizon Zero Dawn, you felt like it was necessary to use stealth because you're sneaking up on giant robots that can murder you if you just like charge
Yeah, I
in.
guess that's true.
Batman makes sense in Arkham. If you're not just gonna charge in there, there's all these people with machine guns. Batman is not bulletproof, so using stealth in smart ways like that. But I feel like, so imagine if there was no stealth in Horizon Zero Dawn, except for in dedicated story segments where it had you sneak past a boss or sneak past guards and stuff like that. That would feel real shoehorned.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
my mistake.
So to make a distinction there, as far as what I'm trying to clarify. But
Well, I think when I think of stealth, in terms of Metal Gear Solid, I think it's like you're not supposed to engage the enemy like very much, and like Arkham and like Horizon Zero Dawn, you kind of have to clear the room kind of thing. Whereas Metal Gear Solid, like, you can just slip through that whole game. There's an award for slipping through the whole game without ever getting caught by anyone,
Right.
And like just not killing anyone.
now there's still boss fights, right?
Sure.
That, you can't avoid.
You can't avoid that,
Right, like the Hind D. I mean, you have to stop and fight. It's gonna see.
Oh, sure.
You. But yeah, I think that's a really good distinction that you're making. That in MGS you can really just make it through the whole game without taking anybody down.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember specifically. Now, is there the tranquilizer gun in this one?
No, that's in the Twin Snakes version.
Okay, because that came after Sons of Liberty, right?
Right. Mhm.
Okay, so you could still do a no deaths run though
Yeah.
in MGS1.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't shoot anybody.
Exactly.
Okay. Which, yeah, you got to be pretty clever for that. Was there a specific reward for that?
I think it was the stealth camo.
So I must have done it then. Because I remember, okay, stealth camo, for those of you who maybe haven't played this game, you complete the game then, and at the end it gives you, for your next run through on a New Game Plus kind of a deal, stealth camouflage, which was like a tech unit that made you look like the Predator, where you're just like completely transparent.
Yeah, this is so cool.
The optical camouflage, yeah, that was really cool. It made you feel like the ultimate like Solid Snake. And then did you mess with people after you had the stealth?
Oh yeah, totally.
You just like punch them from behind it. They're like, what? Yeah, I used to do that all.
Who
the time.
did that?
Everybody. Oh no, is that no? That's what the
guard would say.
That's what the guards would say.
Yeah, like, who hit me?
Who hit me?
How many punches?
What were some of your favorite scenes in this game?
Man, so many.
Oh, don't say that and then not name one. Name like 3.
3, 5. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Okay, no, I'm kidding. My favorite scenes, like parts of this game, I think like the beginning. To be honest, like the
Where you're
beginning,
swimming and they're telling
like
you
the
the mission briefing.
swimming, and then like you get to like the elevator, and then like that first area right there, like just hooks you, man. It's like so like you have like the military type music, but it has like some kind of like techno to it thing, like, and you're being briefed, and like you go to the top, and then like the title shows up, boom, like you're in it, you're in the game.
Yeah.
I bought this, and so you start playing it, and so I think that like just hooks you right away. Another scene.
Okay, can I share a favorite?
Sure, we'll trade off.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I name 3, you name 3.
All right. The first time you're on the heels of the cyborg ninja, and you open those doors, and there's just like blood everywhere.
Oh yeah.
and all those dead yards. That was one of the moments where I scrambled to turn the TV off because
Your mom walked in.
I was like in the same. I was playing, you know, I didn't have a TV in my bedroom when growing up, so
Yeah.
at
We've
various
been
times.
there. We've all been there.
Yeah. So,
Except kids nowadays, they like have smartphones and they just like turn off their screen.
yeah.
So much easier nowadays. Man.
I imagine that it will imagine with a switch. And you're like, you don't even just take it out of the dock. Be like, huh, nobody saw nothing. You know, that I was playing friggin'
Eevee. Pokemon, let's go. You definitely have to hide that from people. Your boss comes over like, oh shoot. Like,
he's like, yeah, Pikachu. That's right, son. So yeah, when those doors first open, you see like all that carnage everywhere, and then you walk in, and there's that guy that looks like he's levitating, but he's actually being held aloft by the sword of the then invisible cyborg ninja. And yeah, you follow him into the room, and he's threatening Otacon. Hal Emmerich, was it?
yes.
Yes. One of my favorite lines from the game, where like you start about to throw down with the cyborg ninja, and he's like, "This is just like one of my Japanese animes." Love that line.
That's a great scene.
Yeah, I use that all the time in life. I have a tattoo. Actually, that's the tattoo, not Moodles. That's the tattoo that we got. Right? Is
Japanese anime?
Japanese anime? Yeah.
Just
that.
the words.
Okay, your turn.
Oh, that was weird. Definitely Psycho Mantis.
That was my second one.
Well, you know
Okay,
what?
what about Psycho Mantis?
My next one was honestly going to be the what's it called? The part with the Cyborg Ninja Nautica.
Okay, so yeah, this is gonna get
I take-
harder.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what about Psycho Mantis?
Dude. Okay, so when I played it on the Twin Snakes,
Uh-huh.
like, and I had no idea about like anything that was gonna happen in this game. So it was nice that like a lot of the surprises in this game were still a surprise to me, even after all these years. Because like no one spoils Metal Gear Solid because like I don't know. I guess nowadays no one cared back then. But what's it called? So I was playing Twin Snakes, and that's the one on the GameCube. And so like the part, you know, you meet Psycho Mantis, you're in that creepy room, and like he reads your memory card. And for me, because I also had like Super Mario Sunshine, he's like, "You like to play Super Mario Sunshine, huh?" I'm like, "What?"
Yeah,
I'm like, "What's it called?"
freaks you out pretty much.
Yeah, and like, what else did he do in that scene? Like,
One of many instances that makes sort of this series distinct, right, is breaking that fourth wall, or meta narrative, or meta humor.
oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
One of the best
where
parts.
it's like, "Hey, I can see you," and you're like, "Whoa, I'm just in my boxers on a bean chair eating like an entire apple pie with my bare hands." It's kind of embarrassing.
I know.
Like imagine if Psycho Mantis was that powerful. Like instead of reading your memory card, he could see you like sitting in your pajamas. Like
I think they could do like the PS cameras.
he's like, "I like your Hello Kitty pajamas." So you're like, how
Just
did he know?
What's it called? But I think like the highest concentration of what you just talked about is definitely like within the Psycho Mantis part.
Yes, yeah.
Because like he reads your memory card, you switch out the controller to the second port. Yeah, it's great, and so it's a fun boss fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like, you know, like he like, what's it called, mind controls Meryl, and like she tries to kill herself, and like you gotta stop her, and you get really emotional. You know, you have to save Meryl, and then
it was traumatizing too. Like when you take down Psycho Mantis and he tells you his story, and you're like,
yeah, oh yeah,
oh my gosh,
it's like this guy's.
sympathetic villains. I hate him.
I hate him.
I do, because it's just like, let me just defeat you. You don't want to tell me your sob story. Like imagine if in Super Mario Brothers, when you jump over Bowser, he falls into lava, and as he's melting, as the flesh, is disintegrating in clods off of his skin, and his muscle fibers are just like fraying apart like so much cheap carpet, that he just like, I remember. Oh, and he sounds like Psycho Mantis too for some reason. Stop laughing. I can't think if you're laughing to it.
Okay.
He sounds like Psycho Mantis for some reason.
Oh
He's
my
like,
god, it's
I
hilarious.
remember when my father used to beat me as a child.
and he's like, my father was a drinker.
Just like a bunch of different villains.
Yeah, all these different villains.
And then Bowser just dies.
As he's going down, and a thumbs up.
It's Terminator. That wasn't even a villain in that movie. Anyways,
That was great. Okay, somebody, if you're listening, if you're a game dev, make that game, please. Okay, thank you.
Or if you like, your source filmmaker and you know how to use the Unreal Engine, do it.
Well, there you go. Yeah. All right, so
Your favorite scene?
Psycho Mantis is my favorite scene
Your
now.
second favorite scene.
Probably gonna be the confrontation, the first confrontation with Sniper Wolf.
Oh,
I like how it was like, hey, you can't beat her. You got to go back. Stop shooting the rats. And then you got to go back and get the thing, right? And then you come back, and then you can do a little, what was it, diazepam?
yeah, the drug.
Right? That
man.
steadies your hands, yeah?
Yeah, dude, that's so weird. We'll talk about that later.
Okay. Under adult themes.
Yeah.
Okay. And you had to have a sniper fight. I just was like, this is such a creative boss fight, even like age 14 or however old I was when I first played it. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel like anything I'd ever done before. Mm-hmm. So your turn.
The part where Revolver Ocelot catches you and you got to do the torture scene and you got to go with circle. He's like, and don't use auto fire because it'll know.
Have you used auto fire ever?
I didn't even know what that was when you said that. So I was just like,
oh yeah, because it was. I always wondered what would happen. Like, what if he's just like, you think I was playing, punk? Save deleted. And then it's just like game over. He just deletes your save.
Oh, I thought he was just going to come out of the TV and shoot you.
Oh, with his...
Revolver Ocelot.
With his Desert Eagle or whatever that you said. Let's see.
Definitely that scene, though.
Okay. I'm trying to think of a third scene here. Definitely not when it was like, hey... call Meryl on this codec number that's on the back of the case. And I was like, I bought this like at a pawn shop.
I bought this at Blockbuster.
Yeah, I do not have the case. So it was literally just like every time I played the game.
So short.
Never remembered. It was before the internet too. So I had to just like try every codec thing. And then mailing pops up. It's the famous Solid Snake. And you're just like, I didn't mean to call you. I'm sorry. And then Naomi Hunter pops up and she's like, hello, Snake. Did you like me to tell you a story to make you sleep good?
What is this?
That's what Naomi
Never
Hunter.
mind.
That's why they changed it for the future entries. She sounds normal, right? She's not like
oh yeah, she doesn't have
hyper
an
British
accent,
like in the first one. Yeah.
And neither is Mei Ling. She's not British ever.
No, she was Chinese, right? She had like a Chinese accent.
Yeah, and the Metal Gear. Actually, in the Twin Snakes, the voice actors don't have the accents. They sound like the ones in Metal Gear Solid 4.
Right. That's actually why I didn't like Twin Snakes. Because ingrained in my mind is, I've got to go swat a couple of bothersome flies. And the line delivery wasn't exactly the same in Twin Snakes, even though Liquid still had the British accent.
Right. I'm you.
Is that what he sounds like?
Yeah, that's what he says to Snake, at least at one point.
Oh.
It's like, what? And he's like, I'm you.
I remember, okay, third scene. I like all the Les Enfants Terribles stuff. They're just like, they're like, hey, to me, yeah, I'm like a young teen. I was like, I don't know anything about the world. And that's what young teens sound like. And then your laugh like just pushed that thought right out of my head. I was just like,
I have a habit.
I was like, I don't know anything about the world, so maybe this is real. Like, what if they try to clone people and all? And it was like super creepy to me. Yeah, almost like doomsday type stuff. That was just like super creepy technology stuff. So some of our favorite scenes. If you're listening, make sure you leave us a comment with some of your favorite scenes from this game, because I'm sure there are more other scenes right in this game, right?
There's too many to
count.
count.
One of my favorites, a surveillance camera. Yeah, that's it. It's just like, he was super shocked to see a surveillance camera. To this day, I don't know why so much shock for a surveillance camera. I just don't know. But cool. Let's talk about adult themes. Okay, so you referenced something a little earlier. Actually, I already forgot what it was.
Diazepam. You mentioned that, and I said,
okay,
which is
right.
weird.
Like, hey kids, not like
take some antidepressants.
No, to be fair, the game was rated M.
Sure,
so it wasn't for kids.
No, it wasn't.
Right, and that's an important thing to know, and it's something I stand behind too. And like, I'll try to do with my children. Like, I don't want my kids playing games above their rating for their age before their time.
I do that with my brother. Like, I don't let him play.
Yeah, especially like this game.
Oh yeah,
like they're playing when they're 25, man. I'm like not letting them. Yeah, just kidding. But like age appropriate stuff I think is important. My personal belief, your personal belief.
I think so, yeah.
So, but yeah, lots of things in this game I was exposed to at a pretty young age. What are some other examples? Now, you wrote down on my notes the words sexy characters.
That I did.
Okay, specifically.
Who's the sexiest? Gotta give it to my man Roy Campbell. I mean, he is fit as a fiddle. Let me tell you. No, I'm kidding. No, definitely like a lot of sexual, like, you know, suggestive themes they would call it, right? In the
suggestive themes.
That's what they would like label sexual.
Yeah,
content.
Or like sexual themes too. You'll see
would
that
they?
sometimes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now there's no actual like depictions of sexual like or intercourse or anything like that in this game. But yeah, there's a guy that's nude that's like snailing.
Johnny?
Yeah, and he they blur out his bottom. But there's there's quite a few sexual references. Snake shoves cigarettes up his butt.
Which is another adult
Just
thing. Yeah, like
them into,
like drugs and like the
Cigarettes
fact that
and
your
stuff,
items can be like antidepressants
Yeah.
and like cigarettes is like I've never seen the game do that.
But I think mostly about this game is the disturbing themes and some of the really disturbing moments. Like when you get captured and you wake up and the dead DARPA chief is in the same room with you with maggots all over him.
Oh yeah,
That was pretty disturbing,
Wow.
you know, and I hadn't played many 3D games before. So I was just like, wow, it looks so realistic. Even like today, like, no. Because the imagination fills in the rest, right? And so I was like, yeah, you wake up in a room with a dead man. Like, that's pretty disturbing.
Right.
But yeah. Well, speaking of adult themes, we're recording this podcast in
The music room.
the music room. So go ahead and tell that story. I wanted you.
So the music room. One time was how many years ago was this? Probably like.
I'd say I was just married, so that was in 2011.
Oh no, it was after that because it was like college group stuff. So
Oh, okay.
I was in college. So I was
So maybe
probably
12 or 13.
yeah. So I was like 2013 something. Anyways, Moses had a well-read mage. Had just had his first apartment, and he was showing us around. And he walked.
And I was showing just you around, right?
Just me, yeah.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
just me. I was the
Okay.
only person, and he walked me to his and his wife's quarters, and he looked in and he just like, yeah, this is like the music room. Like he didn't even realize. He just tried to come up with something that's catchy.
I was trying to think of like some unusual room, like, you know, the terrarium. That's not the aviary.
Yeah.
I should have said the aviary, but instead I called my bedroom the music room.
Right, and like
Yeah.
I made like the and like it's I think it's a face I made at you where it's just like I was kind of like weirded out by what you said, and then you looked into my face, and you're just like, oh, why did I say that? And like we had to tell everyone, and like oh, it's so funny.
You had to tell everyone. I had like guests over. And you're like, so one time Moses called his bedroom like the music room. So yeah, you referenced that today when we came into my bedroom again to record this podcast.
Right, we're having a very this is like a special place right
It
now.
is. Don't touch my bed.
My feet are on it. Sorry.
So anyways, yeah, adult things. Anything else you wanted to say on that?
Adult themes in the music room. That's funny.
It's
Just I mean, there's like a lot of like other themes that we could probably talk about later, but yeah, in terms of adult themes, there's like there's the sexual stuff, drugs, alcohol, death, you know, that's in there, and that's I mean, for the time, was that like pretty like not common, or like was this just like the beginning of like games like including these kinds of things?
you had you had adult games before. You know, there's famous examples like Chiller, that I believe was on the NES. Yeah, that was just like a game where you like shot like people's limbs off and stuff like that in like a torture room. That's pretty dang adult.
That's
Like
terrible.
yeah, even like past adult, like you wouldn't look at that and be like that's adult. You would just be like that's reprehensible. Like yeah. Like one of those like way too graphic things. There's an even more infamous example in Custer's Revenge for the Atari 2600 that was essentially like pornographic, but yeah, prior to the NES.
Okay.
Thank goodness for Nintendo and quality control.
Yeah.
I mean, I just mention Chiller, but yeah.
But I think it's because like I think the reason like people like started getting concerned about it is because like the 3D era became like I was like, oh, this is real like now kind of thing.
Right.
These aren't just like little blocks anymore. And
Well, if we're talking about to when the ratings, the ESRB ratings began, that was largely because of games like Mortal Kombat,
right. Which
and
was
that
transitioning
wasn't
into
yet, yeah, but it was still realistic enough.
Do you think it's because of games like? Because I mean, Mortal Kombat was kind of like the transition into 2D to 3D. You know, because of that, like now we were allowed to have these kinds of themes later on, and like this is like kind of like Metal Gear Solid and probably a few other games around the PS1.
I think there were probably less like the ratings, in my opinion, probably made them less taboo, because it's now it had an official rating on it,
right.
But especially when it rolled out, I don't think it was as big of a deal as it should have been. It didn't have enough noise made about it because, like, you think about it, like the ratings don't mean anything to a kid, right? Like I was 13, 14, I didn't care. I was going to play this game.
Yeah.
So it was really up to the parents to look at the rating and understand what it means.
Still is today, yeah.
Right, and still today, like you don't want to be like, "Oh, what's that?" I'll let my kids watch, whatever. And you do parenting however you do parenting. That's my personal opinion on it. But
they're there for a reason.
Right, they're there for a reason. They're to inform the consumer.
The parent, yeah.
Right. So, because the child is the one that's going to consume the game, but the consumer is the one who purchases it, right? Who votes on it essentially with their dollar.
Right.
And that's the parent in most cases. Even though there's a lot of adult gamers today. But the point being that, yeah, with Metal Gear Solid and with ratings, I think it was more acceptable at this point because it had the rating on it. And there were certainly, I don't know if you could say more graphic. I mean, there probably were. I'm trying to think of a specific example.
Like Manhunt, or that was on PS1.
Yeah, I don't think I played that.
That was a pretty graphic game.
Well, I mean, just on the PS1.
Yeah, Manhunt was on PS1.
Oh, okay. I thought you said PS4.
Yeah. No, Manhunt was like an official license.
Like, well,
game.
guarantee there's more graphic games now. Like, I played
totally.
the Last of Us, and I was like, this is the most graphic I ever want to get again, ever. Yeah, and
I guess, but I've seen way more graphic games than Last of Us.
Well, yeah, no, of course. And there's some games that are like, I would never want to play that. But yeah, for then, PS1, yeah, I'm sure there were like horror games like, well, Resident Evil is pretty terrifying. I remember playing like a demo of Silent Hill and just being like, nope, absolutely can't do it.
Scary.
Yeah, it was pretty scary stuff. So, yeah. Music.
You wrote down music?
I wrote down music.
Oh.
You want to talk a little bit about the music?
We can sing some.
Okay. The whole song. And you can do the nose flute part.
Are you just gonna do this or like?
Nah, I'm gonna do the choir part too, all parts.
Okay. At the same time. Feel like a layer tracks over and sing it.
I have it all prepared.
Acapella. Music.
The music is great.
Some really good music in this game.
What are some of your favorite tracks? Do you have any?
Definitely like The Best Is Yet to Come.
I
doesn't get better than that one.
But once you name that, then you're like the rest is downhill.
Yeah, I know that's true. Dang it.
No, we were listening to a little bit of the music before this. I was like, man, these horns sound crappy. Like the synthetic horns. Yeah. But the strings don't sound too bad throughout, and certainly the percussion is on fleek.
Throughout most of the game, you have like that like men's choir. It's like, oh.
Yeah. Okay, now Mantis Hymn. The Mantis Hymn is one of my favorite tracks from this game.
A good one, yeah.
Very creepy, elegant, has like that quasi like spiritual like aspect to it that's really unsettling. And then all kinds of creepy stuff starts happening around that point in the game. The music is still pretty exceptional, and certainly it was a foundation to build upon for later entries. Yeah. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk characters. This is a game that has some really great characters.
Oh man,
do you have a favorite character?
Jeez, decoy octopus, definitely.
Like the one that you see but doesn't have like a comic book supervillain role, essentially. Like you
No.
never have a showdown with them or anything like
No,
that.
yeah, that's funny. You can. Do you want to gripe about that? Because I know you have a gripe. That
About what?
decoy octopus.
I do?
Like for like the longest time since I've known you, you always like every time I mention every time I mention decoy octopus, you just like your blood boils a little bit.
Really?
You know?
I don't remember any of that.
You're
I don't
probably
know what
over
you're
it
talking
now,
about.
but you're just like what a wasted potential. They teased us, and you're just,
I think you must be making this
No,
up
you
and
said
taking
this.
advantage
You
of my
said-
senility because, like, yeah, that makes no sense that I would ever be upset.
you might have
about
done it as a joke then.
I probably did.
Yeah.
Like one of those, like Star Wars is the non-thinking man's Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate you. I mean, my favorite character, like video game character ever, is like Solid Snake. Like, and he's the man. Like, he's
Oh, and today is International Men's Day. So
And the
how
best
appropriate
man.
that you would say that Solid Snake is your favorite. Is he your favorite video game character?
oh yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah. Guess mine.
Piranha Plant.
Piranha Plant. How did you know? No, it's Mega Man.
Oh,
Like man is in his name.
yeah, but he's just a child.
A child?
Yeah, Solid Snake is a man. Let's talk about
Yeah.
Solid Snake.
Okay,
man.
Solid Snake. So you said that he was the perfect man.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, but I will disagree with you on that.
Okay.
I think that oftentimes he's reluctant to help others. He's certainly self-destructive. And
He's the perfect role model.
he's not you're just like
No, I mean, he's like the first. I mean, like what? Like when I was 17, I didn't play too many games with like characters that had like any complexity to them. And so Snake is like very
the
complex.
first time, yeah.
Like Snake's a very complex character. I mean, yeah, he's like a soldier, and he's like, you know, a guy who kind of feels like he needs to get things done, but doesn't like really want to.
yeah.
And like he doesn't, you know, his purpose in life is very like, you know, he doesn't have one really. And so he's just a guy that tries to get the things done, and he like a lot of times throughout the series, like he's like, you know, I'm not a hero. I was like, I'm just like, you know, doing what needs to be done.
who enjoys the act of killing.
Right, yeah. And so like
Does he say that in this game?
I
Or
don't
is
know
that
if he
the
does.
second one.
No,
He says a lot of stuff.
he
so.
says a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He's seen that.
I was always fascinated by his background.
Yeah, and like he's the fact that he's just like a clone from like, you know, like, and he grew up like as a soldier, and like he basically like enrolled into like military schools and stuff like that, and just trained like from the beginning to just be like a killing machine, and like whether he accepts that role is, and like he's good at it, like for sure. That's the worst part about it. And so
Yeah. Right, like what you said earlier. I mean, essentially he's a murderer.
yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Kinda
Okay.
thing.
Now, the question that I wanted to ask at this point was, how do you define murder? So I think you and I would agree that murder is wrong.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So like if I saw that you have a Pikachu and Eevee Switch bundle, which have you seen that?
Yeah, it looks
The
amazing.
banana and the caramel like
Ugh.
controllers.
Yeah.
The Joy-Cons, they look so great. But if I see that you have that and I want it and I kill you to take it, obviously immoral, right?
Right.
Now, if you break into my house and threaten my family, like let's say at gunpoint or knife point, and you're like, give me your Switch or I will kill your children. Like, and I kill you to stop you from doing that. Is that the same thing ethically?
No.
An equivalent? No. Okay. I think we would agree on that too. Now, to take that even further then, and this will come back to Solid Snake and Solid Snake's ethics. So defending one's family, defending one's community, sort of blowing that out, defending one's nation in terms of soldiers, I think that, because Snake is a soldier, I think that you and I would agree that World War II obviously had tons of complexities, had tons of things going on, millions of people involved, millions of decisions involved, millions of individuals making ethical and unethical decisions every day during that war.
Right.
But at its broadest scope, in general terms, I would say that we as the U.S., the West, had to enter that war specifically to stop the rise of Nazism
That would be, I think, a just goal to do that. And
Right. So then I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that that's the equivalent of you killing me for a switch. You know, like that would be murder.
Mhm.
But that would be more the equivalent of somebody breaking into your house and threatening your family, or threatening to do harm to innocents.
Mhm.
In all seriousness, and you have to rise up to stop them.
Right.
So I don't think that those things are ethically equivalent. But then when we get to Solid Snake, though, he's also a soldier. He's also someone who is involved in his own war, quotations. But then he also gets involved later on in the series in other wars, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, even before, like Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2 are like about that too. Like there's a lot of war, like, you know, in Africa that he goes to, and like in the jungle that he's part of.
Oh,
too.
in the originals.
Yeah,
Okay.
the originals too.
Yeah, that's right. To drop the term solid from that. Now, so I think that his ethics, or his reasons for his justifications for killing, frequently change throughout his life, as you see in the games, right?
Yeah, I think he sums it up in like the fourth game,
Uh-huh.
where he says like, he's like, I'm not a hero, I'm just like a hired killer just to do some wet work.
Right.
That's what he thinks himself as, because in a lot of ways, like him and, like, you know, soldiers, like even in general, sometimes it's like, you know, you have the idea like, yeah, I'm doing this to defend my community, or
Mhm.
like, you know, like the world, and to protect innocence. But a lot of the times, you know, it could, like when Snake is like, you know, the reason he's sent out in this game is to kind of protect like political interest,
Right.
financial interest, that
Right.
kind of thing.
And that's clear once you reach the end of the game.
Right, yeah, and so that kind of thing, and so that's why he thinks that.
But he didn't know that. So in terms of his ethics, he thinks that he's just stopping terrorists, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, he knows he's going through the whole game. He knows that he
Right.
there's something fishy going on.
Suspicious. Right.
He's suspicious,
Yeah.
but he still does it anyways.
Right. So here's an ethical question then. If you're suspicious of unethical motivations behind your superiors, but you're sure of the unethical terrorists, do you stop the terrorists, or do you choose not to stop the terrorists because of suspicion and not validation?
That's really hard.
Because I think that if I was Snake, I would, without being sure, of course, he didn't trust Campbell, right, at various points, and caught him in lies at various points. But not being sure of that, not having his suspicions yet confirmed, I still think that I would say, well, the terrorists are wrong, and it would be right of me to stop them.
Right. I mean, he knew their goals still. I mean,
Right.
they wanted like a nuclear weapon.
Right, which would be pretty bad.
That would be bad.
I mean, if you let... So if you were the one man that could stop these terrorists from obtaining a nuke, and you say no, under suspicion that it'll just be for political interests, and then the terrorists nuke the East Coast, that's kind of on you. That's kind of like...
But I think in the end, it's about that, like, he's protecting this weapon from like people who might end up doing that anyways.
Right.
He's protecting it for them.
Right.
Like, and so,
Yeah.
and that's the hard part. About
Right. And that's our world too, is all the grays in between. That's why we went back to World War II. For all its complexities,
Right.
it still was fairly black and white.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
when you define it that broadly, I think you can
Yeah.
define it that broadly sometimes. And think,
Now that's less easy with wars since.
yeah.
But we won't get into that. Just to talk about Snake's ethics, I think that that his changing motivations, his changing reasons. Now you could tie those things to, like, justification for an action is sort of tied to motivation, right?
Yeah.
But because Snake's motivations change so much, makes him a really interesting character.
Yeah.
Especially in terms of how he doesn't want to play politics, and yet that's something that you see
He's a tool, like,
right
to do it.
happens. Now in Metal Gear Solid 2, that's not so much. He kind of goes rogue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
That's what that's
Which
about.
I think is what you could naturally see is the progression of this character. At some point he has to say, all right, I'm not going to be somebody's lackey anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Solid Snake, definitely an interesting character. Not my favorite character,
Right.
though.
Oh no, that makes sense.
Do you know my favorite character?
Who?
Psycho Mantis.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, in the game? Oh yeah.
In the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like
In
period.
general? Like,
No,
what?
I
That's kinda
already
weird.
said it was Mega Man. Yeah, Psycho Mantis in this game. I just thought that boss fight super creative.
Oh.
How you had to switch controller ports, just a really, really creative
Mhm.
thing. I think definitely where you started to see the kind of creativity that Kojima could wield.
Yeah.
And Kojima, we'll talk about him and Konami in a little bit. But other members of Foxhound, Psycho Mantis, Liquid Snake seems a little white bread to me.
You think so?
But,
Yeah,
he's got a British accent. He's a bad guy. That's like
He's
every.
a clone.
It's like every
He's like-
Bond movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know. He just,
Liquid Snake. I mean, like he's great.
he didn't have a shtick. That was the thing. Psycho Mantis was like, a telepath. Vulcan Raven, a shaman. Revolver Ocelot was like an insane marksman. Decoy Octopus was like this crazy shapeshifter. And then Sniper Wolf could like, have an insane marksman thing. But then at the same time, she had like this weird affinity to wolves. Like I always thought that she could like talk to wolves like Aquaman talks to fish.
You're a fool if you think that.
Well, I haven't played the game for a long time. So I thought that's how it worked with her.
Right.
And then you have Liquid Snake, who just to me seems like the Kingpin and the Sinister Six. Like the Kingpin is just like a dude, and then you've got like this guy's a scorpion, this guy's a giant rhino, and all this stuff.
Yeah, I think Liquid isn't terribly complex. Like a lot of his motivation is just like angst that he's like he's a clone pretty much, and that like Snake is superior to. Oh, he keeps seeing like, oh, I got like all the recessive genes and you got all the dominant ones, and like I'm just like the runt of the litter, and Big Boss is the greatest soldier, but he never acknowledged us, and so he's like very like an angsty teenager.
Right, and that motivates his terrorism to
Yeah.
where he's gonna steal this nuke.
Yeah.
What was his goal with the nuke? Do you remember? What was like the threat that he was gonna
The threat-
nuke
the-
Washington or something?
Yeah,
like
he was gonna
Okay.
nuke all that, and so for Big Boss's remains, like he wants
Right.
he wants his birthright kind of thing.
Right.
Like,
Was it? And that was the only thing that he wanted, right?
Yeah.
His payment.
Big
Yeah.
Boss's
And they were like,
remains.
just give it to him, dude.
Yeah.
Like, copy it. I don't know.
I mean,
Yeah.
you find out later on like why that
Yeah,
would
why
have been
it's so
kind of a little
huge.
bit bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but yeah, Liquid Snake, not terribly complex, but I mean, still a cool character. Man.
Oh, definitely a cool character. But yeah, my point being that he kind of seemed a little plain next to all these like super villains.
Yeah, they were like a little bit more gray. Like Sniper Wolf, you felt. I think for Sniper Wolf,
Sniper Wolf was supposed to be a sympathetic
yeah,
character.
like
Well, they did.
I couldn't
They
do
did
it.
quite a few sympathetic characters.
Yeah.
Psycho Mantis, Sniper Wolf, Vulcan Raven.
Yeah, definitely. I think
Yeah.
him too. Not
Um,
Revolver Ocelot, definitely.
No,
Like,
well, because he plays later into the series.
Right,
I think
exactly.
it would have been way too early to sympathize the character.
I don't know if you ever really do either. I mean,
I'm kind of against making every villain a sympathetic villain. I think it can be really powerful to make a villain a sympathetic villain,
true.
but I think it can also be overdone.
Yeah, and I'm glad it wasn't, because like you have Revolver Ocelot and Liquid Snake, and like
Right.
they're like the only ones that
Yeah.
kind of make it to the end, and like
Yeah.
they're like the least sympathetic ones too, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think that you needed that in this game. You needed that sort of unstoppable force that Snake just had to be coming against, and it had to be like a pure irredeemable evil.
Mhm.
And yeah, by the time you get to the end of Metal Gear Solid 2, I remember like Revolver Ocelot is just like,
Crazy.
yeah, I'm like, what? How? Yeah. So there's a lot. We didn't talk about any of like sort of the good alignment characters, the support characters.
I mean, what you have Naomi, Mei Ling, Otacon, Roy Campbell, Meryl, Silverberg. A lot of women supporting him.
yeah, I had a
just realized.
crush on Meryl.
I still do, to be honest.
No, really?
No, I'm kidding. No, when I played it out, obviously, who didn't have a crush on?
No,
Meryl?
you were 17 though. I mean, I was 14, so that's a little weird. But I had a
I
had a
guess.
crush on Sailor Moon too at the time.
Oh, okay.
You're like, I don't know what to do with that information. But
I think when I watched Cowboy Bebop when I was 17, I think I had a crush on Faye Valentine.
on
so-
Faye,
Yeah,
like
a
who
little
would
bit.
probably
But I was
be-
17 though,
who
so
would probably be like the worst girlfriend in,
Yeah.
in existence.
yeah, absolutely.
Like she just like steals all your money every day.
Every day.
Steals all your money.
And just comes back for more.
Yeah. I was
Anyways.
trying to say online that she's a horrible person, but she redeems herself by the end of the series.
Sure. But we're not talking about Cowboy
No,
Bebop. We're
we
talking
are.
about
Okay, tons of character development. Yeah, it's great. Anyways, okay, back
I
to
mean, you
Metal Gear
got
Solid.
like Naomi. Was
Did you have a favorite support character?
Otacon. dude.
Otacon, yeah.
Otacon's great. I
Yeah.
think he's like a guy that's just like very cowardly, but he's still like
Heart of gold kind of a
heart of
character.
gold kind of guy.
I'm sorry for building mechs.
Yeah.
Well, then don't build mechs.
I know, dude. His dad is like the evilest character like in the entire series. I think.
Does he make an appearance?
Yeah, his dad. He's in Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 5.
See, I haven't
So
played
you gotta
those.
get to
Yeah.
those. Those are the prequels, but like to think like that. Otacon and Snake are kind of the same in the sense that like they're carrying like their father's like legacies,
Mhm.
and like that's in Metal Gear Solid 5. There's a song called "Sins of the Father"
Yeah.
because you have his dad Huey Emmerich and Solid Snake's I guess dad and Big Boss. Being evil men. And like them somehow kind of carrying on that and trying to deny that. Like Otacon's like in the same boat as Snake in that sense.
That's
And so,
interesting.
yeah, dude. Dude.
And I liked that their real names is given at the end of the thing, where David and Hal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, reference to 2001: A Space Odyssey, my favorite film.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then you have Naomi. She's somewhat villainous too. Like
Yeah.
she turns on you, but she also has like a one of those backstories that you have to feel sympathetic. She's like
Right.
she lost her parents like in like some kind of war, and like then you have Gray Fox too. the
Gray
ninja.
Fox.
We didn't talk about
Gray
him.
Fox.
We didn't talk about him, but
Yeah.
he's like the most like Snake too. He's just a guy that like she's trying to break free from the cycle of being like a government tool, that kind of thing.
Right. Gray Fox was probably the most mysterious character in this
Yeah.
game, especially because, I hadn't played the older games.
Yeah, he's
before
in Metal
this.
Gear 2, I think.
Okay.
He shows
and
up in
I
that.
haven't played
And you-
Metal Gear 2 at all.
I think you kill him in that too.
Oh, really?
As Solid Snake, you kill him.
Okay. Yeah. Hence all the
Hurt me more, Snake.
hurt me more. Probably the title of this podcast.
Hurt me more.
No, I'm just kidding.
That should be, I think.
No.
Okay.
That's weird.
People like look up "Hurt Me More" and just like, what is this podcast?
Okay.
Anyways, but-
So yeah, I definitely liked the villains in this game. I think it has some of the strongest villains of the games that I've played in this series. Definitely stronger villains than in the second game. I think Solidus seemed a little one note, and Vamp was cool, but it's just like, but I don't how, like eventually you get to a point where like, well, how?
Yeah, I don't know.
How? Like it seemed like everything was explainable for the most part in Metal Gear Solid 1. We're like, okay, he's a shaman. There's maybe some magic out there. I don't know. And then you got the telepath and stuff, and you're just like, well, yeah, sure, whatever, psychic powers. But then when you get to the second game, you're like, a literal vampire? Like, I don't know.
He's not literal. Nanomachines. Play the fourth game.
Oh, really? See, I forgot the nanomachines already.
Fourth game. Well, you know what? Because in the second one, they didn't explain any of that. And so it's in the fourth game where he's like, yeah. But you got to play those.
Okay.
All the gripes that you have of
So
the
what
second
about
one
the
are
third one? The third one was the one where I totally checked out on the bosses.
I mean,
The fear,
they had
the pain,
they didn't have any
the
backstory.
sorrow.
But
I
I
was
mean,
like, this is a
but you know
ghost.
what? The boss made up for all of that, dude. Like the boss is just like
Oh, the boss. Yeah. Well, the end was really cool too.
the end was cool.
Even with his shape-shifting liver spots.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was weird, but
yeah.
that's a
It's
cool boss
And
fight.
like Vulcan too, he's just like a masochist. Like pretty much, he's not very terribly complex either.
Vulcan, was that the
Vulcan was like the Russian guy.
yeah, with the
that would,
electric
like,
powers?
Yeah, yeah. Like,
Yeah, that was another one. I was like, well,
but
why?
Like, yeah.
Like, this is not a comic book. This is Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear
But it
Solid
is a comic book.
and an anime,
And in anime,
And, like,
mixed
a s-
into one.
and at the same time super realistic with like a lot of like military. terms
Right.
and
Yeah,
it's, like,
that's why the balance of content, the balance of themes, the balance of what you would think would not gel together
Yeah.
actually works pretty dang well together in this game. Okay. So there is one character that is integral to this entire game, and that is Hideo Kojima himself.
He's actually in one of the games.
Yeah.
Literally.
Literally.
Yeah.
He is, so there's this thing, right, called auteur theory that
You just looked up.
that we looked up because I forgot what it was called, but I knew what it was.
Yeah.
But I had to look up the name because I was like, I don't remember.
I told you what the name was. Though.
Yeah, you did. You remembered it. Which is the premise of the auteur theory is the distinguishable personality of the director as a criterion of value. Now, I won't embarrass you in front of my friends with a statement that you made earlier, but Kojima was sort of one of those developers that has like a cult of personality built up around him.
Oh yeah.
Still does.
Still does.
Especially since he's developing this
Elusive.
ridiculous looking game called Death Stranding. Yeah. That I will play for sure, but it looks ridiculous. There's just all kinds of like crazy stuff.
Oh yeah. Can't wait for the game.
Yeah. It looks like when you give a director too much room and he just sort of runs with it.
But I love those kind of movies and video games. So
Do you?
yes.
Like Batman versus Superman?
You know what? No,
See
they
what I
didn't give
mean,
him enough
right?
freedom.
They didn't give enough freedom?
No, I'm kidding.
I think it was like too much freedom.
You know what? Okay, it all depends on the director, to be honest. But
Yeah.
there's some directors that are so good when you let them run amok.
Kubrick.
Yeah, like Kubrick was allowed to run amok,
Yeah.
and like he has like made.
Okay,
like,
here's
some
another one.
masterpieces.
Nolan.
Yeah, he's very auteur. I think.
Yeah.
I think he's very restricted in
Like
some senses.
it was like Nolan, you can expect like what you're getting.
Yeah.
All right, so I think at base, if we're talking about cults of personalities, where you're going to get what you expect from these people, right? Like the really famous directors, whether that's in games or in movies, are always going to produce pretty much the same thing. And that might be better or worse given on how much free reign they have.
I think it's better to call it like hallmarks. Like they have hallmarks that you can pinpoint. Like because Kubrick and Nolan, they have very diverse filmography. Like they have like a touch of them that like their own style, but they're very different movies. Like all of the ones they've made.
Well, in genre, especially in those
And so
terms.
with
but
that-
they all have commonalities too.
And with Kojima, it's about like just like very like super realistic real world like themes and like nuclear weapons and like war.
And then at the same time, extremely silly, like
And then
almost cartoonish.
You got a vampire,
Right, or like a baby inside of was Norman Reedus. And just like a baby giving you thumbs up.
So
like why? What?
Yeah. And
Strange stuff like
so
that.
Kojima, definitely. And so like I think it's because of that why I like these games, to be honest, because of like that balance of those things. And like because not to trash talk Splinter Cell or anything, but that's just straight like grit, like real world military thing. But then I want to fight a levitating guy who wears a gas mask, but at the same time he comes from like a war torn region where like so there's that.
Yeah. So as we all know, Kojima and Konami had this big falling out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, would you have preferred for Kojima to stay on with Konami? Or do you think it was good for the games that he was to develop for him to leave and start his own studio? Has he released anything from his own studio?
No, this is going to be his first. Death Stranding going to be the first.
If it ever comes out, right?
If it ever comes out.
They haven't even announced like a... What if like at the Game Awards, like they're just like... And I don't even know if this podcast is going to come out after the Game Awards. I think it will. But it's recording before the Game Awards, let it be known.
Right.
So if they announce it and just like 2028 Death Stranding
for PS7.
Yeah, and then we get to like 2027 and like
they delay it again.
Yeah, they're just like, we have to delay it. And then it's going to be called Death Stranding Kingdom Hearts 3. That's the subtitle.
Yeah, but I think going back to your question when you asked me if it feels better for Kojima to leave Konami, I think so, because I think Konami is like a sinking ship. I mean, the last game that Kojima directed for Konami was Metal Gear Solid 5, and like, I mean, if you know anything about that, you know, it's like so much cut content from that game, and so much. It's strange how polished Metal Gear Solid 5 is, and how amazing it is, and like how it feels like the first like actual like next gen game. But at the same time, you know, there's a lot of cut content from it because Konami like just kind of pulled the plug on him, and they've started. And now Konami in general is just starting to focus like on like gambling machines, and like mobile apps, because you know it's all about the money. You know.
Yeah, I remember playing something. Can't remember exactly what it was, and my kid brother was watching, and he was like, "Oh, Konami." I was like, "Yeah." I used to make games. He was like, "Really?" I was like,
That's funny.
yeah.
I mean,
He only knew them as the controversial studio that booted.
That's
Konami.
interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, because for us, like Konami is just like some classics. You got Castlevania. You got Metal Gear Solid. You got. Did they make Resident Evil?
No, that was Capcom.
Oh shoot! All right. What else did they got?
Oh, this is what it was. Super Bomberman R, which was a launch title on the Switch.
Yeah.
Which was not very good. But yeah, it was Konami. It's got their name right on the
Thanks, Konami.
thing. Contra was one.
But I mean, Konami fired Kojima. Like,
Radius, Silent Hill.
okay, yeah, there we go.
Silent Hills.
Okay, so yeah, Konami definitely like had some gems.
Yeah.
But nowadays they just straight up fired Kojima from
Dude,
like, his own project.
friggin' Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game.
I'm trying to move
Yeah, they had a lot of stuff back in the day. A lot of stuff. I know you're trying to finish a thought, but yeah, looking at this list here, it's like there's a lot. Yeah, a lot back on the NES,
right.
back on the Super Nintendo.
But as I said before, nowadays it's not about that anymore. And
Yeah.
so like they fired Kojima for. I mean, Kojima is like trying to restrain that guy is like trying to restrain like a pit bull or something. I mean, it's impossible. And now you have him, you know, PlayStation's kind of giving him the green light to do his thing, you know. And so I think it's better in the end for Kojima and for video games in general.
So a question then for you is two-part question. Are you looking forward to Death Stranding, and do you think that it'll be commercially and critically successful?
I am looking forward to Death Stranding like a ton. And I think you know people are going to I think like you said financially?
Commercially.
Oh, commercially, right?
And critically, in terms of both, because we know the day and age that we live in where critics and fans are separated by like the widest possible chasm. Like critics will be like, gamers don't know anything about games. 9 out of 10. And then fans will be like, oh, critics are stupid and pretentious. And 9 out of 10.
I honestly have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know.
But
that might have
I
just
think
been I just made that up.
what's it called? But no, I have a feeling it'll be like commercial and critically successful. I mean, just you know, I mean, even Metal Gear Solid 5 was like every single game he's made has been like. I'd be surprised if Death Stranding was not a good game. And so
I'm actually much more skeptical about it.
that's because you're old.
I know, but it's good to be skeptical, right? I mean, to an extent, unless
Oh yeah, sure.
unless you have like, you know, valid reasoning that somebody is showing you that you're like, there's no reason to be skeptical now. I'm like, oh, okay. But I think that I'm skeptical just in terms of how much free reign. Everything I've seen about Death Stranding, like I said, looks ridiculous. It looks like a fun video game
Sure.
or a fun movie for like, you know, 2 years of footage. But I think the last time they showed it off, it actually had like some game footage. I was like, oh,
You're just walking
a
around.
walking simulator,
Yeah.
which doesn't look particularly exciting to me. It looks like, okay, think if Guns of the Patriots was too much Kojima, you know, an hour and a half long cutscene.
I think that was too much Kojima.
Right.
Though. I
So
think
do
they
you
gave him
think
free
that
rein.
Death Stranding is going to be too much Kojima? Because think about everything that we've seen about that game so far, which is a lot of cutscene stuff. Now, how much percentage of the game do you think that those cutscenes that we've seen so far represent? Like, do you think they represent even half of the cutscenes that we're going to get in the game?
Probably not. I think it might be like a very long game. I mean, because
Yeah.
like if he's getting free right now and like
Yeah.
even Metal Gear Solid,
I think
5
we're
was a long
gonna
game.
probably be looking at a movie with some interactive.
Possibly, but I
Yeah.
mean, for Metal Gear Solid 5, I mean, like he specifically wanted to cut. He wanted to cut down on the cutscenes, and a lot
really?
of the story was told through gameplay in Metal Gear Solid 5. So that's why a lot of fans maybe did not like Metal Gear Solid 5 because it was such a departure from the series, where it was like you got movie gameplay, but in Metal Gear Solid 5 it was like the gameplay is like your experiences with the game is like part of the story too, and so. I think with Death Stranding, I hope it's the same thing, because I mean he was trying to do that, and like Metal Gear Solid 5 was just trying to be more of that until they pulled the plug on it, and so I think Death Stranding will be a good game, and I think a lot of what's it called? He's been talking about it too. Is like a lot of the gameplay is gonna be about like the story, because like he's talking about like tethering things and like how you're gonna be connected to other players and stuff through the gameplay, and like I think it'll be almost like Journey, it'll tell like a lot of the story in that way too.
Right. Now then, I wonder if they will tire if it's too long of a game. Like, do you think that we would have tired of Journey if Journey was a 30-hour game rather than a 3-hour game?
Yeah, but there's not much to do in that game. So.
Right. Yeah, maybe there's not much to do in Death Stranding.
And that's the thing too, because
Yeah.
you know what, Death Stranding is just Journey Part 2. To be honest, you're just like walking around, meeting players, and
Dude, what if? Oh man, I'm extremely curious to know the story because everything that we've seen so far has been extremely provocative. Is the term? Oh, has been extremely let's say eye-catching. Squidward.
Have you seen the the Man in the Golden Mask cutscene?
No.
Watch that right now.
I don't want to.
Watch it, dude.
Have
It's
you seen the Aquaman trailer?
Yes, you showed it to me.
No, the one that came out like today.
Oh no. I don't
Okay,
care.
we're gonna watch it when we're done.
Okay, but you should watch right now. I want your reaction on camera.
Camera.
It's like
We're
a quick
not
30-second
camera.
like cutscene.
Okay, let me
trailer.
see here. So, what are we looking at? Man in the Golden Mask
Death Stranding.
from Death Stranding. Even the title is weird. Death Stranding. Oh, I think I might have seen this. Let me see. Dude, Black Friday, what a joke.
What are you talking about?
Talk about like skepticism, like yeah. Oh, Troy Baker. He's good.
I had a special surprise prepped and everything. But it looks to me like your hands are full. It's no biggie. We can always...
He has a mask under the mask.
Of course.
Yeah, see, this is like Dragon Ball Z type stuff. I don't know. This looks really silly.
But just finish.
I mean, yeah, I'm watching it. It's like he wants to make an anime with real life people. This is my original character.
Woo! He looks hungry. All you gotta do to make it out alive is not get eaten. Sound like fun? Of course it does.
Death Stranding.
Now, see, that to me, look, in my optimistic view, that looks like that's a boss fight.
Yes, it does look like a boss fight.
So that
But-
got me excited.
It didn't show us the boss fight though.
No.
What if the boss fight is like a Game Boy Advance style card game? Where like you throw it out.
You could have just did a quick time of it, but no, you said that. Like, that's
Even worse
terrible.
than a
I
quick
hate
time
card
event.
games.
Where it's like, yeah, you gotta collect like different like weird things like baby fetus in your stomach
Mm-hmm.
card, or like floating apparition with umbilical cord card, and then the boss throws down its cards and you have to It didn't show us the boss fight. That's all I'm saying.
It looks like the opening
Yeah.
cutscene to a boss fight, though. If you know anything about video games,
I've played a few.
have you?
Yeah.
You should make a website
Yeah,
where
I
you
do.
review
Oh, that's a good idea.
and call it.
Red Mage Reviews.
Yes.
That's a good idea. All right. So I know what I'm doing at the end of this podcast, which we're nearing it. So let's wrap up with a couple final questions. There's a question that I wanted to ask you specifically.
Oh, is this the one that you didn't show me at the
This
beginning?
is, yes.
Oh, yes.
Will you marry me?
Okay,
just kidding.
I can't break
I'm
Charizard's
sorry.
heart.
This is for another person.
Ooh.
Batman versus Solid Snake. Who would win?
Solid Snake.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding.
Why?
Because he has like the biggest arsenal ever. I don't know where he hides it.
Have you seen the Joker?
What?
The Joker has like tons of arsenal weapons and guns and
Yeah,
stuff.
but why
Like
doesn't he choose
don't pretend like Batman's never fought anyone that has like a ton of guns.
Oh, okay. A homing missile?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Dude, Batman dodged Darkseid's Omega rays that were like homing lasers and got one to shoot into Darkseid.
Okay, that's just silly, man. Like, comic books need to take a chill pill.
We've been talking about Metal Gear Solid. Okay, we're talking about taking
And
a
I
chill
think
pill.
that comic books are like way more over the
Yeah,
top
they are.
than
Well, I mean, 80 years of history. Yeah, you gotta do some crazy stuff. Okay, but you would say Solid Snake would win. Solid Snake would win over a guy who's been doing it for 80 years.
You know what? I hate these questions because like it just depends on who's writing it. Like
I'm writing it. Who would win?
the Batman would win.
Okay, listeners, you gotta solve this for us. Who would win? Batman, the Dark Knight, Gotham's hero, or Solid Snake,
The ultimate man.
the ultimate Happy International Men's Day? Happy International Men's Day, men.
Men.
I remember that one time where I can't remember what we were doing, and I just started chanting men.
Yeah, we're like men.
I don't know where we
It was like
were.
more of us too, like chanting men.
Yeah. Ah, gosh, I was arguing with somebody. It was probably
Probably,
Vanessa or something like that.
Can we say her name?
Nobody knows who she is.
Vane-
Here's her address.
Her social security.
Yeah, and then I was arguing with her, and like she was like, I was just like, men. It was a joke, though. Come on.
Yeah, we're not that
Yeah.
misogynist.
No.
Even though we are gamers.
I let her finish I let her finish stupid group think. I let her finish her argument, and I think I lost that argument actually.
Yeah, and that's why we went to that.
Yeah.
But it was just so funny.
Let it be known. I admitted it. Okay.
Wow,
let's
that's
let's
crazy. After
take
like 5 years, probably.
5 years, please. I think it might have been longer than that.
No, I don't know.
Okay. Question here. This is from @GamesWithCoffee from Twitter, who is also the hyperactive coffee mage. Thank you very much, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, for being a mage. He asked, with the likes of Facebook, Twitter, et al. Being the gatekeepers to information, how relevant is the messaging behind Metal Gear Solid 2 and 4 in regards to how information flow is controlled, firstly by the Patriots and then followed up by JD and the other AIs? Now, you've played those games, so I can't answer that question.
That's true. Well, I mean, I think in a lot of ways, Metal Gear Solid 2 was like ahead of its time in terms of like its themes.
I think it was prophetic.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. And same thing with Metal Gear Solid 4. You know, it's like, you know, commentary on like, you know, just like war being like an oiled machine and like just private military
For the
and stuff
economy.
for the economy kind of thing. And so like, I mean, we're still seeing that today. And so what was the question about? Like how?
I don't know. That was a long question. That's probably the best answer we're gonna get.
But no, yeah, I think it's still relevant
Yeah.
to all of that, to those games. And
Play the game.
we'll probably talk about those more when we cover those games, though.
Yeah. This is from @the_arcade_castle. How many punches?
Just one, baby.
He said, aha, my question works perfectly. Just one, baby. He said, another question I always like to think about is the impact of a game, both in terms of its impact in the industry as well as its cultural impact. I know that is one of the overarching themes of the episodes at large, so I guess I'll ask how many punches. He also asked how many cardboard boxes.
Just one.
Just
Just one card. But
okay,
in
so
terms,
the impact of the game in the industry and the culture.
I think Metal Gear Solid was important in like feeling cinematic, like in terms of like It felt like more like a movie. Like, I mean, in the 80s, you had like all these, like the one guy, he has to take out all the terrorists, like Die Hard or like any of those movies, that kind of thing. But kind of subverted it too, you know, because he wasn't, like you mentioned, like he's like the strong character. Kojima, when he was designing him, wanted him to feel like, he says he has to be strong, but he's not like super tall, not super buff. He has to be slender, so he's like a cat. Almost.
Yeah.
That's how he describes Snake.
And you totally get that from Snake. Snake-like, almost.
Yeah, a cat snake. And so I think Metal Gear Solid, in terms of like subverting, feeling more cinematic and having movies today that feel like, you know, you have games like, I can't think of any that feel cinematic.
Spider-Man, I just played, was extremely cinematic.
Oh, you got
Horizon Zero Dawn.
like Uncharted, you know,
Yeah.
Last of Us, Horizon Zero Dawn definitely too.
Yeah.
So I think
The Last of Us was pure cinema.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so like it has like these hallmarks of cinema, and so I think Metal Gear Solid, I don't know if it started it, but I feel like I hope it did.
Yeah.
Because it feels like it did.
Yeah.
And
it did it better than a lot of games come after.
Oh yeah, totally. And it's like totally still subverted like a lot of that, and to have like the hallmarks of like cinema and to make it feel cinematic, and to have the story like be linear in that kind of way too. And in terms of cultural impact, that I think it changed games in a lot of ways like that. As I have a funny story too, actually. I remember my uncle, who he's like in his 40s now, but he's like into like a lot of those movies, like 80s movies, and so when that game came out, I think he was like 18 at the time it came out, or like 19, something like that. And when it came out, I remember he told me, when we were talking about this game, he told me that he didn't talk to my aunt for like 2 weeks. Because he was just like playing that game like back to back like for like 2 weeks.
Dang.
That's how like into that game he was, and so
That's terrible.
yeah. No, they're happily married now though. So
Oh, that's good.
he's a good
Sweet.
husband.
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid didn't come in between.
Yeah.
That's easy to do with the cinematic stuff, especially.
Yeah.
Question here from @Fritzstalgia. With Kojima's impeccable taste for narrative and the huge Western influence he had, his departure from Konami meant an inevitable change on focus, direction, and narrative. How does the series fare nowadays compared to the games we remember and love? So I think that's a big elephant in the room with Metal Gear Survive, right?
Yeah.
Which you've not played.
No.
Okay. So the most recent one you have played, Kojima, was still involved?
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 5. Yeah.
Okay. So can't really answer that one, I guess, from an experiential point of view. For Metal Gear Survive, I haven't played it. You haven't played it.
No.
But your perspective is it's not
really a Metal Gear Solid game. No.
But it's a Metal Gear game, maybe.
Sure.
Because it says Metal Gear.
I mean, the thing is, like, I've seen the gameplay, and like a lot of it, it's like it takes place during Metal Gear Solid 5, but like the characters you play as are transported from a wormhole into an alternate dimension, and they have to fight zombies. Like, there's nothing Metal Gear Solid in that.
Yeah.
And like the only thing that's the same is it's using the same engine from Metal Gear Solid 5.
Okay.
And like I heard the gameplay is like not very good. I mean, if the gameplay was good, I might play it, but like it's not good either. I heard you like you run for like 10 seconds, and like your character just starts starts dehydrated and stuff like that.
Is there a risk of because of the cult of personality with Kojima? Do you think that's why so many people came out to say that they hated it?
Right away, yeah, because I definitely like am guilty of that. Like I was just like, no. Well, you know what? In a lot of ways, like if they made like another Metal Gear Solid game and you still had like a lot of the same writers besides Kojima, I might still try it. But like, I mean, we're talking about auteur theory. Like Kojima has like his handprints over the thing. Like, would you watch like a film that like a lot of people that worked with Kubrick? I mean, you would, but like, would it be as good as like a Kubrick film?
Yeah,
kind of.
I don't know. That's hard to say. Well, here's an example. I played Mega Man 11 recently. I did not have Inafune involved in that. Creator of Mega Man.
Right.
And it actually ended up being a game that wasn't just pretty good, but it felt like classic Mega Man, like the earliest entries in the series. And so I think it's possible to escape that cult of personality, but it's probably pretty hard.
I mean, it might be easier for a Mega Man game because like
Yeah.
it's just in terms of mechanic
Right.
and aesthetic.
Right.
Maybe.
You got to nail the mechanics is the most important
Yeah.
thing. But certainly with this, where you've got all kinds of other complexities involved.
Right, like story themes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, much more.
Much harder. You probably could, but like, would it be as wild and zany as Kojima? Who knows?
Yeah, right. Okay, one final question here. When I ask you, have you ever played Metal Gear VR Missions, the game for PS1? Would you recommend it to others? This comes from @PlayJackSayback on Twitter.
I mean, maybe at the time it came out, like, because I mean, like VR.
Have you ever played it?
Yeah, I have actually.
Okay.
What's it called? Because VR missions is just like VR missions.
But there were some VR missions in the original game, right?
Yeah.
And this was just an expanded.
It was just like DLC, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so it's just like.
But back then it was like you're gonna buy a separate game.
Yeah, exactly. And so what's it called?
But at least they were transparent about that.
Right. No,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay,
And
anyway.
but yeah, VR missions is just basically it's almost like a training mode, almost, you know, because you're going through like moving through the blocks, but there's no story in any of that, and just I mean, it's like if you like the gameplay of Metal Gear Solid, yeah, it would be fun, but like, I mean, Metal Gear Solid's gameplay like is kind of archaic in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's like it's not very fun nowadays.
Get
Like,
your DualShock.
yeah.
Analog sticks.
Mhm.
All right, so I think we'll wrap it up. We're hitting a pretty good time on this one too.
5
And
hours.
I don't want these to get like progressively longer and like next year.
Yeah.
End of next year, they're like, yeah, 5 hours long. Thanks very much for joining me, sir. Just in closing, what's a game that you would recommend that's similar to Metal Gear Solid?
Wow. That's hard. Metal Gear Solid is pretty one of a kind in that thing, I think.
I would probably say Tenchu, from the same year, and a lot of stealth mechanics. But it's been a long time since I played that game too,
Yeah, if stealth.
so that's a very superficial,
Yeah, sure. In terms of stealth, you got like the Arkham games, Splinter
Yeah.
Cell,
but very different thematically, certainly in terms
Yeah.
of setting and stuff like that.
setting, content. that
So just to keep it at that face value, what's like another stealth game that you'd recommend?
kind of- another stealth game. Can't think of anymore.
Have you played a game with Batman in it?
I mentioned the Arkham games.
Hey, you did.
I would definitely recommend Alien Isolation too. Great stealth game, survival horror, but like very stealth focused. You know, a lot of the mechanics too.
Extremely
That's good.
stealth focused, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're out there. You just got to look for them. All right. Well, thanks for listening. This may just be the final podcast of this year, of 2018.
What a way to go out.
What a way to go out. Yeah. Thanks so much for listening. This has been a crazy year for the wellreadmage.com. We've launched 2 podcasts, launched a YouTube channel, launched a rocket ship into space.
You guys
You're
did that?
welcome for all the pictures of Saturn, okay? Jeez, like not even a single person. Anyways, thank you to all of our writers. You guys are fantastic. The Mages, just what a group to hang out with. And thank you also to the Warriors of Light who have helped us in being able to do all these cool projects. I don't know what 2019 is going to have for us.
Hopefully Death Stranding.
Hopefully Death Stranding, but I meant more personally.
Oh.
But hopefully, I don't know what we're going to do next year. And that's kind of the exciting thing, to see what happens in the moment. Live in the moment, because tomorrow is tomorrow. What's that? I want to end with Oogway from Kung Fu Panda. What does he say? Oh, he says, yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present.
That was beautiful. Anyways, guys, happy holidays.
Happy holidays, happy holidays, happy holidays, happy holidays, and the merry bells start ringing.
Oh, my ears.
Happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa,
Hanukkah.
happy Hanukkah, happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is this week. Help me come up with the well-read mage puns.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of MageCast as much as I did. If so, please follow, subscribe, share, and leave us a review to help us reach a wider audience. If you enjoy our work, please consider supporting us and our vision for the future of gaming conversations through patreon.com/The Well-Read Mage. Special thanks to my Mage League colleague, Brent Mead, for sound editing. The Magecast theme song, Post Atmosphere, was composed by fellow mage Russell Gordon and can be found on his YouTube and SoundCloud. This episode may be over, but the legend will live on, passed down by the dwarves, the elves, and the dragons.